Welcome to Goldfish on Games, where an experiment in time and space has gone awry, and soon the results were discovered. And to stop the world turning to ruin, 6 hard-as-nails mercenaries have been hired to take on the Chaos Engine. Developed by the Bitmap Brothers, it initially came out in 1993 on the Amiga, and then went on to hit most of the early 90s computers and consoles, with a range of box art to go along with it. Inside the original box, we find the game on 2 discs, a manual that goes into way more detail than is actually needed, and these cards that go over the 6 mercs that we can choose from.
The Brigand! Another well-rounded talent, and a cutthroat bandit to boot! That is all!
The Gentleman. A lean and clever character, he is a dapper chap without a doubt. What he lacks in muscle, he makes up with wit.
The Mercenary. A good all-rounder. He's quite mad, you see, and he enjoys nothing more than experimenting with his collection of unsavoury weapons.
The Navi, the strongest of 6 characters, a good fighter with heavy weapons. Although he has limited abilities, they are very destructive.
The Preacher, the smartest of the 6 characters, but then he has God on his side. Beware, the Preacher's perverse nature is not to be trusted.
The Thug. When it comes to characteristics, the Thug could pass for the Navi's brother. The Thug is a mammoth of a man, a little stupid, but very powerful.
As this is a co-op-led game, that even in single player you will have a CPU-controlled second player, selecting the right balance of characters is important, as they all have their own specials and stats. And working out who works best with who is quite important. Now the basics of each level is pretty much the same. Find the nodes, shoot the nodes.
Node activated. Exit open. Level complete.
Make it to the exit. Now the number of nodes will change from level to level, and something that makes this actually more interesting and complex than you might expect are that the nodes that you take out can depend on the route that you take, as these levels aren't static. You will find keys and other items that will open up new paths, or teleport you around the map, or completely change the layout. This is not the simple run and gun game it might appear at first glance, but what might appear simple is the controls, as instead of being a run and gun, it's more of a stop and shoot game.
Node activated.
And what makes it slightly worse in its original Amiga release is that holding down the fire button will trigger any specials that you happen to have. So you're going to want to keep tapping it if you want to keep firing. If you don't have any specials, you can just hold it down, it's fine. So you really can't treat this game like, say, Alien Breed. The CD32 version changed this slightly, as they moved the special onto its own button, so holding the fire button down at any time was possible, but you were still locked into that position, and you could just turn around to shoot. The problem is that some enemies are surprisingly strong and will hit you hard. And if you don't want to take that shot, you're going to want to move quite quickly. Now I will say this style of controls aren't my favourite, but it does give the game its own style. But I always feel that it's holding it back slightly, and it adds to what is already quite a difficult game. Now so far I've been showing various versions of the game, and for the most part they all pretty much have the same levels and the same characters. Well, apart from the US edition that did change the title to Soldiers of Fortune, and they also made one other change. The Preacher became the Scientist. But they pretty much act the same, and it's just a small tweak to the artwork. Now the rest of the art did get an upgrade when they first made the AGA version, or AA version as they called it.
Party power. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
which gave it a brighter, more colourful palette. And you can see the CD32 and the SNES using that version of the artwork, while the MegaDrive, well, it went for the OCS original. Now there are some that prefer the more muted look and others that like the more colourful one. I don't mind either, and I quickly get used to them as I'm playing, so for me it's more of a side grade. One interesting port that came much later that also used the AA artwork was the Chaos Engine Remastered, that was released on Steam in 2013, which didn't really remaster any of the artwork and instead just gave you the option to smooth it out, which looks absolutely awful, and it also gave you the odd option to bloom the artwork. Which makes some bits a bit brighter and, well, doesn't really help in any way whatsoever. Particularly when there's no scanline filter, so the bloom just feels completely out of place. I'm not even sure why it's here. Now one benefit is the quote-unquote 360 degree mode, which mostly adds in a few extra angles that you can shoot at. But you still have the exact same control method as before, so overall it's a bit of a mixed bag.
Special power, special power.
After battling through the forests, we end up in the workshops. And while the style pretty much stays the same, the graphics change drastically across the 4 main worlds. You will get to soak it all in across the 4 levels you'll get to play in each of those worlds. Now that might not sound like a lot of maps, but the difficulty, well, it ramps up massively. As not only are there unique enemies per world, you also get some unique enemies per level, and with the numbers and types that you're facing increasing as you go. Now we will start to get far more maze-like levels in this world, with some of the maps having multiple routes through them, which means you can play the game quite differently every single time. Now this is where you might notice for the first time that there are also multiple exits, and this will start you in different locations on the next map. But don't think you can easily work your way to any of the exits, as the game will put barriers behind you, which is meant to help you not get lost. But it also stops you from backtracking too much, which is both useful and annoying in equal measure. And some of those exits might even be hidden behind some puzzles, requiring you to pick up keys in the right order. And with the wider range of enemies that you start to face, you also have to deal with environmental factors, like steam pipes, some of which you can disable if you shoot them in the right place. It's lucky you have that backup.
They are safe.
You might have noticed the gold being dropped by the enemies and the odd block of coins that you can find on the floor, and these are for the deep upgrade system that you can access every 2 levels. Now you can't just drop cash into any old stat. There are a number of rules in place, like you need to upgrade your skills before you can upgrade anything else. But you will be locked out of adding to your skill until you've bought those. The CPU controlled character also gets an extra upgrade, Wisdom. That the higher it is, the better they are at helping you, in theory anyway, but they might also get a little greedy and start grabbing the cash before you do, as you can only spend what you collect. Now there is a tactic of letting them get taken out early and then trying to go it on alone, which is risky with the amount of enemies you'll have to face. From here we enter the pits, an area of small platforms and large drops, that luckily enough you can't walk off the edges. But this does make your movement options far more limited, and when those freaky hands start to come for you, you really want to get away from them. The monsters here are really starting to get more and more unique as you get closer to the Chaos Engine, with them being mutated more. And the levels really start to mess with you as well, with almost random bits of floor teleporting you around, and you can never be too sure about where you're going or what will even attack you. And some levels, depending on your starting point and the route that you've taken, might actually be quite short. That is, if you can make it that far.
Layers activated.
But you can level out the playing field by using the special abilities, with each character having a different one.
Special activated.
And these range from weapons that might clear the screen, throw a wall of fire, or just blast out in all directions. But others are more support class in nature, and they might heal or show a map. To use them, you will need to find the item bottles in the levels, but then you can trigger them at almost any time. You might even find the specials themselves in the map, and just walking over them will trigger it. Now as you level up your character, you'll also get access to more specials, and you'll need to purchase them to add them to your inventory. But they can be extremely useful, like distracting monsters or even freezing them. One neat option that you have if you're playing it single player is you can switch your specials with the other player. This can be a lifesaver if you're playing with the computer and you want to use their health pack.
Special activate.
The final world is the Cellars, and the game isn't done with introducing new things to you, as you'll have to lower the water in some areas to be able to progress. Mostly by shooting something, but it's still neat. You'll also have to deal with the challenging robots that can take a real beating. And I found it interesting that during development it sounded like they were making this a 3-player game. Or at least there would always be a third CPU controlled character, as this was mentioned in a few previews in some of the magazines. But I think they made the right choice in having it just 2-player max, as on the original Amiga this could really slow down in places. But if you're good enough and you've managed to work your way all the way through this, you'll eventually have to take out multiple well-protected machines before you can eventually take on the Chaos Engine directly. Now this really is a special game. It looks absolutely amazing, it sounds awesome, and it is just great fun to play. It's Bitmap Brothers at their peak, which makes the sequel a bit of a shame as it went down its own direction, and it came out so late that it's pretty much mostly forgotten. But that is a story for another time. Now while the controls can let this down, it is still a classic and a well-deserved one at that. So grab a mate or use the CPU and go and have a great time. And talking of mates, I'd like to thank a number of mine who provided the voices at the beginning of the video. This included Rose Tinted Spectrum, Watto Snorkers, Dudley, Slopes, Timberwolf and Seb, all of which went above and beyond for those line readings. And you know who else is awesome? My Patreons, whose help and generosity help make videos like this possible. And if you'd like to join them in getting ad-free access to videos a week early, getting behind the scenes sneak peeks, as well as seeing your name on screen, then you can join them for free. There will be links in the description. And until next time, I've been the Goldfish, that was
Node activated.
and this was Goldfish on Games.